Welcome, Army fans. This is Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com with one of our favorite regular special guests, Alex Aukerman, 2018 graduate of the United States Military Academy, former outside linebacker of the Army Black Knights. How's it going tonight, Alex?
Hey, great. It's going great. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Good stuff. First question for you, Alex. You going to be able to make it out to Foxborough for the game, or are you watching from home in Indiana?
I'll be watching from home.
Cool. You got just you and the family, or you got a party?
Yeah,
What are you doing?
Yeah, probably my parents. Yeah, we'll probably all get together and watch it.
Your
Yeah.
dad's big time football. Like, I need to get him on here one time. He's really
Yeah,
sharp. He's got some good commentary and stuff. So
yeah. He coached me my whole life, and he played in college too at Ball State. So yeah, it's always good, just sharing the game with him.
awesome. We'll have to do a father and son post-game analysis one day. That would be good. So, Alex, last time we spoke was after the big win in Denver against Air Force. And that game started an impressive winning streak whereby the Black Knights are undefeated were undefeated in the month of November, went 3-0. What have you noticed in Army's incredible turnaround in the last three games compared to in October where they went winless?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty simple, where it's just blocking and tackling. I think for as long as this game has been around, that those are kind of the two main things that where if you out block and out tackle the opponent, then normally good things happen. And I know Coach Monken's always preaching about the plan. He has all the commandments, all that stuff where it's all those little parts of the game where if you're winning those, the turnover battle, third down, stopping the run, stuff like that, you kind of can just look up at the scoreboard at the end of the game and be happy with the result. So, I really think it's just, they're really locked in now. I think Air Force has probably helped kickstart that momentum. Just getting back on the winning side of things, even if the wins don't look pretty, like with, I don't know how they felt after the Holy Cross game, but hopefully they were just like, we won. Wins are hard to come by, and just kept stacking them. So, I think that's pretty much the difference, is just locking in, doing their job, and, really just coming back to that winning feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that builds confidence for sure. And, you look at Holy Cross, okay, they're FCS, but their head coach just got the job at James Madison. A bunch of their players hit the portal. I'm sure their quarterback's going to be a hot commodity in FBS. There's probably a lot of G5 teams that will take a look at him. So that was definitely a good win. And it's funny you mentioned the fundamentals, going back to another West Point grad, General Robert Nealon, of course, who was famous at the University of Tennessee, but got his start at West Point. He's got his 10 maxims of football, or 7 maxims, whatever it is. And like you said, I mean, he came up with those in the 1920s or 30s, and they're still all very applicable today, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. I mean, the game, as long as it's been around, the fundamentals is pretty much, all you got to do to win, and doing your job. That's it.
Yeah. Now turning our attention to the big game this weekend, Army Navy. The last season we had you and Kenneth Brinson on, a couple other folks, and we covered the 2016 and 2017 Army Navy games. Can't remember if I asked you this then. Maybe it's hard to pick, but do you have a favorite between those two? Do you have one that kind of sticks out more as like, yeah, this was my favorite Army Navy game, or are they both pretty amazing?
Man, it's really tough, because I think, like, with how the end went down, the 2016 game, it was kind of like, once we got that first down, like the defense was on the sideline, it kind of was a slower progressing, like, holy cow, we did it. Like, all we got to do is take knees now, but still, it's like, you can't really relax it. You're like, what if something crazy happens? But everybody's just kind of looking at each other like, holy cow, we did it. Just like we basically had like a minute and a half, 2 minute, like warm up to then everybody storming the field, and we snapped the streak, all that stuff, versus 2017, where it's like, I'm in my stance, literally praying like, please miss this. And I was actually like the check for the fake guy, so I couldn't even rush. I couldn't even rush the kicker. So I'm like, all right, I'll just take my jab step, and like, there's no way they're gonna fake this, but
Right. You're like, I know this isn't a fake. So
I basically just stand there and then turn and just like hope that he misses it. And so then, that was just kind of like a pure, euphoria, basically, just from like the range of emotions. Like, we
right.
made a third down stop, and then Malcolm Perry like fumbles it and scrambles and gets the first down, and then it's like, oh
Yeah,
my,
that was a crazy play.
yeah. So there were a lot of crazy plays that game. So man, I can't really pick one. Just because like the snapping the streak was just like over our heads for so long. My whole time there, and there were grown men crying on the field, just like thanking us for like snapping the streak, like it's finally over. That obviously that was just such a cool experience. So yeah, it's really hard to pick one because they were both just unreal and stuff I'll never forget.
Yeah, both just awesome games. Two of my all-time favorites in Army Navy history. I had a couple of my classmates on the other night from the 92 game that we came back from a 17-point deficit and won 25-24. That was another great one. But 16 and 17 were definitely special. 17 bringing the Commander-in-Chief's trophy back to West Point for the first time in 21 years was great. The snow game was pretty wild. 2016, a bunch of my classmates and I were the old men on the field. I went up to Jeremy Timpf and gave him a big hug. That was before I worked for GBK. I went up to Jeremy Timpf, gave him a big hug, and thanked him.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. So,
Yeah, it was awesome.
yeah. All right. Well, we both kind of discussed our let's call it healthy dislike for Air Force. And I know nobody wants to lose the Navy, but what makes this game a little different in your opinion versus the Air Force rivalry?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like, part of it is just like the build up for it. It has its own weekend. Obviously, everybody knows that. So, we know the viewership's going to be through the roof. It's just kind of like, we say beat Navy all the time. And then, yeah, I mean, I know at least for like the first 2 years, like it was the last game of the season. So that was part of it. And then, yeah, I mean, it's just like, such a storied rivalry. There's the build up, there's the press conferences. There's us getting out, we're down in Philly or Baltimore, wherever it was, like, Wednesday night or Thursday morning. I think Thursday really early in the morning, we leave there. So we're there for a longer time. It's not like, a normal Saturday game when we fly out Friday. So we would drive down, Thursday. And yeah, I mean, I think part of it is also because, every day at practice, we have that 5 minutes of the CIC period that was preparing us for Navy. So it's just like a culmination of the entire season in one game. It's basically like 60 minutes of, what we've been practicing for in the whole off season. Every single huddle we break down would beat Navy. So, and then we know like they're going to bring up the all-time record. They're going to show like, here are the last five, like, years from now, they're going to say, we're going to be on podcasts or, interviews talking about, that 2016, that 2017 games, that, it's just going to be, part of your legacy, like, especially as a senior class. It was like, man, like how terrible would it be if we come this far, do all these things that, kind of are helping change the trajectory of the program. And then, we fall short here. So, there's kind of like that pressure standpoint, but it's just like, you've put the work in, you've prepared, and now it's time to go execute the plan. And you only get one shot at it. You don't get a redo. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Alex, the GBK community really appreciates your firsthand former player perspective on things. What do you think are some of the keys to the game this Saturday? I think pretty in line with what the keys are typically anytime we play Navy. But what are some of those keys? And then, if you're the average fan watching in the stadium or at home, what are some kind of unique insights and things that maybe some of the fans can look out for and watch for during the game that might give them a little better perspective on kind of how things are going?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing is just like not to get caught up in the moment. It's just taken to another level from any other game that you've played, during the year. Obviously they went down to LSU this year, and that's a huge stadium. But just from a standpoint of like, when you go out to warm up, there's already people in the stands. Like, they were there for the march on 3 hours before the game even started. So I know that was like one of the first things I noticed, where I'm like, normally I'm out there warming up and there's, maybe 1,000 people in the stands because it's an hour before kickoff.
Right.
But Army Navy, it's like the stadium's already pretty packed, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of people here.
Yeah.
And you're in an NFL stadium, so that's like another just like next level thing. You're on the big screen, like all that kind of stuff. So I'd say just not to get lost at the moment. Second thing is, I think especially this year, Navy's probably going to. They always kind of would come out with a little bit of a wrinkle. I know. I think it wasn't even the year I played. I think it was the year after when I was a GA, but we didn't know who the quarterback was going to be coming in, and they kept that super secretive. They'll throw a trick play in there, or a new formation, just something that you haven't seen at all on any type of film ever.
Yep.
And they're basically just trying to see what you would do, see if you freak out and panic and just kind of forget your rules. Every defense just has, a set like strict rules that, if you see something, even if you've never seen it before, like we can handle it and we can live to see the next snap. And so I think that's part of the Army Navy game is you got to be ready for those types of plays. Don't flinch when they happen, and then, just live to see the next down. And then, you can go over to the sideline, and if it's something that they're going to try again, then, the coaches they'll get it ready and you'll be good to go the next time.
Cool. And along those lines, talking about doing things differently and kind of trying to trip the other team up. Coach Monken mentioned in his press conference this week that they're prepping for Navy to use all three of their quarterbacks. Levitai, who's coming back from injury, Arline, who's been a little dinged up, but has played most of the season. And then their freshman Braxton Woodson, who's gotten some decent reps in lately, especially in the SMU blowout. Thanksgiving weekend. So Monken said Coach Monken said he wouldn't be surprised at all if they play all three to keep Army a little off balance, which brings us back to your first year where the Squids came out with a bit of a surprise when they rolled Malcolm Perry out at quarterback in gun and basically ran QB student body left and right most of the game. Were you guys prepared for that, or did you have to make some adjustments after the first series?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that being another thing where we were like, in practice, we were trying to scheme up some stuff that, we were basically just completely guessing, stuff that we hadn't really seen on film, but kind of thought they might be doing. And then I know a lot of that, like we just had to completely throw out, like it didn't show up at all. Right. And I think it might've been a personnel standpoint thing. I think they just trusted him more, thought that, Malcolm Perry gave him a better chance of success, so they went with him. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, you got to be able to adjust on the fly. Once the game starts, from that point on, it's like you've put in the practice, but stuff changes quickly and you just got to be ready to adapt.
And, for the first time in a long time, Alex, and you might have a good perspective on this, being that you were a former outside backer, but you would line up in a 3-point stance a lot of times for rush. For the first time in a long time, Army has a significant size advantage in the trenches. Army's offensive line outweighs Navy's defensive line by 20 to 30 pounds, which is really odd and unusual for Army. What kind of an impact do you expect that to have potentially on the game?
Yeah, I mean, really in the close yardage situations, that should definitely help. And I know, Coach Hughes will get them going in the weight room. So I know those dudes are, they love the trenches. They're physical guys. Army always is producing those physical guys, even if they're undersized. So, with that advantage, that should be an X factor in the game that could really cause a ruckus in the backfield and kind of force Navy's hand to potentially change up their game plan a bit to see if they can, have to pass more or, double team and we only have to rush 3 kind of thing. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, and you were an athletic intern / grad assistant at Army for a year. If you're on the offensive staff at Army, you're Cody Worley or Drew Thatcher or whoever, what do you think the game plan should be in terms of how to line up traditional flex bone like we saw against Coastal, or more of the gun option that they've been running all year, or a little bit of a hybrid of both?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I haven't watched Navy enough to really get a good idea of like what their defense is like. I think with both of the approaches, there's different formations and sets and personnel on the defensive side that can either be advantageous or disadvantage or a disadvantage. So it really just, they know a lot better than I do. So I
Right.
wish I could give a better answer.
Yeah, they've seen tons of film. I get it.
Yeah. So, they would know. So I wouldn't question their judgment, whatever they think is the best. And, hopefully the results, agree with their decision. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny. I watched the 2022 game last night. I was like, even though Army won, I was like, well, can't have much less offensive production than that. So I'm sure it's going to be an upside. Yeah. Even Coach Monk in the post-game press conference last year, I remember him saying, I didn't think we could run for less than we did against Air Force, but I was wrong. So,
yeah,
it's Coach Newberry at Navy does do a really good job defending the run. So I'm sure Coach Monk and the staff will have some wrinkles up their sleeve for Navy to kind of catch them slanting one way or whatever. So last question for you, Alex. Prediction on the game?
I got to go with the Black Knights winning. I think if I had to do a score prediction, let me see. I'm going to say that Army holds Navy to 10 points, and I'm going to say Army scores 24. So I'm going to say 24-10 Army, lock it in. That's my prediction.
All right, 24. It's funny. I heard that from someone else this week. So you're not the first one to say 24-10. I know I had Tina Servasio from CBS on last night. She said she really thinks one of the teams is going to score over 20 this year, kind of break the trend of the game always being in the teens. So I've got Navy scoring 10, so we're on the same page there.
Okay.
I'd love to see Army score 24. That would be awesome. I have it a little closer, but whatever. So
okay,
good stuff. Hey, thanks a ton, Alex. Enjoy the game on Saturday. Appreciate you coming on. Army fans, this has been Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com. Stay tuned. We still have more great interviews and podcasts coming up between now and game day on Saturday. We just dropped to the website today my podcast last night, Roundtable, with 4 of my classmates talking about the 1992 Army-Navy game. My exclusive interview with Tina Servasio last night, which went super well. And tomorrow I get to talk to Colonel Gary Steele, who was a second-team All-American and had 2 wins over Navy, was also a great track and field athlete in the West Point Hall of Fame. First African-American wide receiver to first African-American football player at Army to receive 2 varsity letters. So stay tuned for that. Should be a phenomenal interview. That guy's got a ton of wisdom, ton of football knowledge. So really excited about it. And that is it. Go Army, beat Navy.